What's up, everybody? Faceoff Sports Network back with another free agent show. I got our guy here, Anthony Servino, at the Real NFL Guru. I'm here also, Steve D'Angelo at Fantasy Savvy. Welcome, everybody. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing to the show, hitting that notification button. Tons of Dynasty stuff coming out now with the free agency stuff. We got that coming out. College basketball picks. We got the March Madness. The tournaments are starting, conference tournament. Then we got the, Selection Sunday is this Sunday. So we got a show coming up probably Friday night. So check that out as well. If you need a good primer, we got that covered for you as well. So we got everything covered. But we're going to get some of these big time free agent signings. It's been pretty crazy. I usually don't pay as much attention because I'm so into the tournament, but it seems like this is a little bit extra crazy this year. But what do you think, Anthony? What's going on?
Free agency right now. I feel like last year we obviously had, on day one, that big running back wave, right? A lot of skilled players. Not so much this year. We had a few guys off the board yesterday. Darnold, Fields, few quarterback dominoes. But really, like, heading into free agency, a few of those big trades really kicked us off. And then today, very quiet. Guys like, we were talking about Najee and Javonte Williams last night. And really the biggest fantasy relevant player today was Daniel Jones. A lot of offensive line and defensive movement. And how I see this playing out, like the first day or two of free agency, we have teams that are probably going to overpay for players that maybe don't deserve it. And the value is where teams and Dallas have been busy with, some quiet signings. I do think they're going to make a splash probably at wide receiver, but teams like the Cowboys, I think teams like the 49ers during that the later in the week and that second wave of free agency, that's where you get some good veterans on the cheap.
Yeah, definitely. Daniel Jones, interesting one to the Colts. I guess we could start there. And Greg says, our boy says, what's up? Daniel Jones. I mean, obviously, a couple years ago, it looked like he was trending upwards with Dable in his first year. And then the following year, just a total regression. And then, they bring him back. We all saw the Hard Knocks. They were contemplating trading up for a quarterback. Joe Shane's son said, take Jaden Daniels. You got to make big moves. And, they get rid of Saquon. They go the zero RB route. And that totally blows up in their face. And now we see Daniel Jones on the Colts again. That's that season he had 2022, 15 touchdowns, just 5 picks, but he had a good rushing year as well. Ran for 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. And you kind of thought maybe, after his rookie season, which was pretty good, then he kind of faltered. There was some injuries. The Giants had a million injuries at the receiver position. Then he bounced back in 2022. Then 2023, he's hurt again. 2 touchdowns, 6 picks. That was he was playing horrible before he got hurt. And then last year, they bring in Malik Neighbors to try to help him out. Just 10 games again, 8 touchdowns, 7 picks. So I still expect the Colts to roll with Anthony Richardson. He has the most upside. He's raw still. So they got to get him the reps. They got to get him the usage. Daniel Jones has started more games in the NFL. He started way more games in college. So he has the experience, but he's regressed. So I think Richardson's the guy they got to go with. They got to see what they have out of him. Start him 10 games, see what you got. And then worst comes to worst, if it's so terrible, then maybe you could, maybe give Daniel Jones a chance there.
Daniel Jones last year wasn't bad early, and just looking at fantasy wise, he had a QB 6 week, a QB 11 week, QB 24 week, which isn't great for a quarterback, a QB 11 week, and then a QB 5 week. So out of the 10 games, he had 5 games finishing as a QB1, right? That was 5 or 4. Regardless, he had some pretty good weeks. What the issue was in New York, and I pounded the drum for this, once Andrew Thomas, their left tackle, went down, there was no more protection. And Daniel Jones, he's mobile, but Daniel Jones without protection is very much subpar. Colts normally have a good offensive line. The Colts also have good skill players, a very good backfield or running back in Jonathan Taylor. It would not shock me if Daniel Jones won the job in week 1. Because I do think if because when Daniel Jones had that big year a few years ago and led the Giants to the playoffs, that offensive line, they were protecting him. And he didn't have a lot around him outside of Saquon Barkley. I think when it comes to overall offensive talent and offensive line, this might be the best team he's ever had around him. And if he impresses during, training camp in the preseason, it wouldn't shock me because, you do have Anthony Richardson on a rookie deal. You owe him nothing money-wise. Like, you're not paying him starting quarterback money yet. So you can kind of give him a mulligan again this year.
Yeah, but the problem with that is then he doesn't get the experience. I mean, he's just going to sit back. I mean, he's raw. I mean, I forget how many games he started in college. I don't know. Maybe it was freaking 10, 15.
Not a lot.
Yeah. And then, in the NFL, maybe another 16 starts or something. So I don't even know if he has over 30 starts combined in college and in the NFL. So
in the same breath, I get experience. Shane Steichen doesn't care about experience. He cares about saving his ass.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I mean, if Daniel Jones is, really far and above Richardson in the offseason, which I have a hard time seeing because the trajectory of Jones's career. Now, getting out of New York can be a good thing, right? Yeah. I mean, we've seen that already with Darnold and Geno Smith. So, maybe it's possible for Daniel Jones, and Steichen, is still a pretty respected offensive coordinator. So, yeah, I mean, it's possible they could go with Jones. I just think that, Anthony Richardson, good signs. He's working with Josh Allen and Josh Allen's throwing coach who kind of changed some things and really helped Josh Allen's accuracy issues. So, I think that's an intriguing sign. And if it was me, if I was the coach, I would just say, all right, let's give Anthony Richardson. Obviously, we'll make it a competition. We want to have him have some adversity still, have somebody behind him to kind of push him. But he's the guy I would target to try to grooming to be my quarterback because of the upside. So, but yeah, I mean, it's possible he just doesn't, really get it and continues to struggle early in the preseason, or maybe they give him a start in week 1 and week 2 and it's disastrous and he has to change courses quick. I mean, that's certainly possible.
And what the Colts have on their side, you can theoretically run the same offense with both quarterbacks. You could not do that last year with Joe Flacco.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true too. And Jones does have a history of being pretty mobile, despite him, falling down on that 70-yard run. But still, good rushing numbers in the past. Al, our boy, says, "What's up?" Index of Suspicion says Andrew Luck just rolled his eyes at your Indy line comment. And Darnold got the Shanny system treatment. Thoughts and prayers to Seattle. And our boy Zach Litton is waving what's up as well. All right. So anything else on the Danny Dime or Danny Penny signing there?
No, I mean, until we know who the starting quarterback's going to be, it's not like we can give real fantasy analysis on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens. I do expect to be rich. I'm rooting for the kid. He is different. He's just got to put the mental and, the actual quarterback play position all together. I just think, I mean, sometimes when you're raw in college, it just doesn't translate to the NFL. All right. Javonte Williams is the next one you want to talk about?
Yeah. Let's go to Javonte and my Cowboys. Sadly.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one because obviously Javonte Williams is like a dynasty darling ever since he came out. People have been in love with this guy. And, pretty good rookie season. Then he tore his ACL, I believe two ligaments there. And he really just has not been the same since. I mean, coming out of North Carolina, physical runner, breaks tackles, a lot of tackles. Never like a break a big run type of guy, but definitely solid running back, breaks a lot of tackles, strong running back. But to me, from what I've seen, I mean, it's been a couple years now removed from the injury. And again, the offensive line play hasn't been great since he's been in Denver, but I don't know. He just does not look really that good to me. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a decent signing, but I'm not expecting to him have this big time season And I'm sure a lot of these dynasty, truthers out there that really loved him coming out of North Carolina still have that belief in him, similar to Kyle Pitts, but I just don't see it.
No. And so let's start here with Javonte Williams. Post ACL surgery, he has averaged a career low 3.8 yards per touch. Last year, career worst in terms of touches per game or carries per game. Granted, he shared a backfield in Denver with with Estime and Jaleel McLaughlin. If Javonte Williams is the guy in Dallas, and there's a case to be made that Javonte Williams is the guy, they're not bringing Dalvin Cook back. They're not bringing Zeke back. At least I hope to God they're not. And there was a report or a rumor saying that, hey, Rico Dowdle, he's asking for too much money. He had such a good year last year that Dallas does not want to give him his worth. So it looks like Dallas's backfield, at least right now, is Javonte Williams. And we've seen this now 2 straight off seasons where Dallas brought in Ronald Jones. They brought in Dalvin Cook. Last year, they brought in Royce Freeman. These guys don't make the roster. It's a 1-year, $3 million deal for Javonte Williams. I do think he sticks around. But I also think Dallas will go ahead and draft a running back. If Gente is there at 12, it would not shock me if they take him. They could also go with an edge rusher, which is in need if they don't bring back DeMarcus Lawrence. And they could also go ahead and draft an offensive lineman now that Zach Martin has retired, a future Hall of Famer. And then maybe they draft a running back in the second round. But on day 1 or day 2, I fully expect Dallas to draft a running back. And if not, then I think we have to, as bad as Javonte was, we have to value Javonte Williams. I would have valued him as if it was Rico Dowdle back there. He can't be any worse. And Rico played well, but he would essentially be the guy.
Yeah,
if they drafted a 5th or 6th round running back, I fully expect Javonte to be the workhorse. Right. But if they go ahead and bring somebody rounds 1 or 2, then I think Javonte kind of sinks.
Yeah, even round 3, possibly. Maybe round 4, depending on who it is. Wow. I'd like to see Dallas to get like a guy that could, break a huge, just like with, long speed and, a good receiver out of the backfield, something like with the Bengals, like with Chase Brown, maybe something like that. And I kind of look at Javonte almost like in the same mold as Zach Moss. Like, I feel like he could produce, but if there's a guy that's more, like you said, 1st or 2nd round pick, then I just think he's going to be toast if the guy is completely legit, similar to also to like a Bucky Irving. Like, I don't think it's going to take much to kind of supplant him as the starter. Now, if they don't bring back Dowdle or, like they go later in the draft, then he should be the guy and get a lot of usage. He might be like one of those like 6th, 7th round running backs that we're looking at and like 0 RB builds. And, we'll see if he pays dividends.
Yeah. Outside of Javonte, Dallas busy early in free agency, contrary to the all-in year last year. Javonte, Robert Jones, who's going to be a plug-and-play guard. Hopefully he doesn't need to start. He's one of the worst graded interior offensive linemen at PFF. That's a 1-year deal from Miami. Peyton Turner, an edge rusher. Osi Odigizwa, butchered that last name, but they put the tag on him and ultimately re-signed him to a 4-year, $80 million deal. Solomon Thomas, who can play the edge from your Jets and the 49ers and the interior, so nice depth signing. CJ Goodwin, they re-signed him. Marquise Bell, they re-signed him. And then here's the big one, Kevontae Turpin. The highest paid special teams wide receiver of all time, 3-year, $18 million deal. I like Turpin a lot. Yeah. Obviously, he's not going to bring a ton of value in your regular fantasy leagues, but if you're in a fantasy league where, your player gets credit for return yards, return touchdowns, I don't mind Kevontae Turpin in those oddball leagues because they also like to use him on gadget plays at wide receiver.
Yeah, I could see Turpin being like a decent best ball pick. Like if they try to utilize him a little bit more this year, which they should, because he's shown a lot of explosiveness and playmaking ability. Yeah, like I feel like he could have like maybe 4 huge games for them and just, kind of help your best ball lineups. Obviously, in a redraft, it's going to be tougher to kind of guess on when to start him. I mean, I guess there is possibly a world where he could maybe become a consistent option in this offense.
Yeah.
But I mean, he does have the talent to do it. And we did see, I'm not saying he's Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill was kind of an afterthought until he was finally, as like a returner or whatnot, and then he was finally inserted into the starting lineup. So something to watch out for. A good little sleeper pick. Index of suspicion says he's going to be avoiding Javonte. Zach Linton says Javonte will look good in Dallas. And then Zach says Genti isn't getting past the Bears.
Here's the breaking news. Zach just said it in the chat. I just checked up on it. DeAndre Hopkins has officially signed with the Baltimore Ravens. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. From a fantasy perspective, probably better for the Ravens overall, experienced veteran. Obviously it's a good spot for D-Hop. He wants to win a championship. Didn't happen last year with the Chiefs. Maybe, he's hopping from one team to the next, another true contender in the Ravens. But yeah, for fantasy purposes, I just think at this point, it's pretty much over for D-Hop being truly fantasy relevant. You got Andrews there, you got Zay Flowers, you got Derrick Henry, you got Lamar. So yeah, that's what I think of that.
Yeah. DeAndre Hopkins, remember a year or two ago when they brought in OBJ? That's what you're getting out of DeAndre Hopkins. And and Jim Coventry on the RotoWire show I do with him brought it up. He's like, hey, if DeAndre had any real juice left, you got to remember the Chiefs kind of phased him out, and they needed wide receiver juice down the stretch in the postseason. And he's been a non-factor. So I think that's a little bit of a tell right there. And they also elected to bring back Hollywood Brown over DeAndre Hopkins. Right. So I'm not saying he's completely ran out of gas, but it's kind of low. And I think what this is going to be a supporting role, wide receiver 3. Like I'm expecting whatever OBJ did a few years ago at Baltimore, that's probably going to be his role.
Yeah. I mean, one thing you could say is, maybe it hurt Hopkins that he was traded late and he didn't really understand the Chiefs system. So they didn't really want to give him enough reps. And, now he'll have a whole off season with the Ravens to work within their system. So it is possible, he should be better, obviously, with the Ravens than he was with the Chiefs. I would think that at least. But, maybe it's the same. Rico Juice over Javonte Juice says index of suspicion. And lots of running backs in the draft, says Zach. And index says he does like Turpin as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, again, I think it's a good move for the Ravens, but fantasy-wise,
yeah, it's a good football move.
I'm not getting giddy for it.
Yeah.
All right, next one. What do you want to get into next? Free agent?
Najee.
Oh, Najee, yes.
That's the big one for me. That's the one I'm all in on.
Yeah, you are a Najee truther. Or I don't want to say you're a truther. You're kind of like, you feel like Najee's been disrespected, so you like to give him his respect. So I'll let you start.
I'm not a truther, but I'm there. Like Najee's been, as you said, so badly disrespected in fantasy football, and even in NFL circuits. Like you hear, like, oh, Najee's yards per carry, yards per touch. I blame the inefficiency on Pittsburgh's lack of a throwing offense. You face stacked boxes in those situations. And they platooned him with Jalen Warren. And obviously Najee can catch passes, but they platooned him with Warren so much that they knew, hey, Najee's in the game. He's probably going to run the ball. I'm pulling up the metrics right now. Najee was 5th last year in terms of facing average defenders in the box. So he faced the 5th most defenders in the box, 6.7 anytime he's on the field.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it was like first down run, 9th, second down run. Go ahead.
9th in stacked front carry rate, 4th in stuff run, so he had everything going against him. Yet he was still, just under 4 yards per carry, 4.4 yards per touch. Not great. But in space, 9th in evaded tackles, 17th in explosive runs, 11th in breakaway runs, 5th in yards per route run. And again, everybody loves Jalen Warren. I think Najee had just as good of a receiving season efficiency-wise. So he can do it all. And what I really love, he goes from a team last year, Pittsburgh, 4th in team run plays per game. Guess where he's going? He's going to the Chargers. They want to run the football. Yeah. And they moved on from Gus Edwards. This is Najee's backfield. I would treat him every bit of a 3-down back. Najee Harris has never missed a game in his NFL career. We don't have to worry about breaking down like J.K. Dobbins. And we love Dobbins, but let's call it what it is. Like, there were some runs last year where it looked like Dobbins was going to score a 60-yard touchdown. He was caught at 20. Yeah. I think this is outstanding for Najee Harris, and I hope his ADP stays suppressed and let the haters hate, because I think for the first time since his rookie year, he can legitimately finish as an RB1. Not top 5. I'm saying as an RB1 somewhere. Maybe he's a top 10, top 12 running back. I think that is within the range of outcomes.
Well, what was he in his rookie year? Because that was probably his best season.
RB6 in points per game.
Yeah, there you go. So he caught 74 balls that year, 94 targets. And, you could see the Chargers getting him more utilized in the passing game. So, last couple of years, 41, 29, 36 catches with Jaylen Warren in the way. Maybe he catches 50, 60 balls this year. It is possible. Yeah. J.K. Dobbins, yeah. So he's a free agent, right? So I don't know if they're even going to bring him back. But he was good last year. He missed a month, but he had 900 yards on the ground. He had 9 rushing touchdowns. He caught 32 balls. So, if he didn't miss a month, he probably would have had 1,000 over, 1,200 yards and, maybe 11, 12 touchdowns. So, Najee certainly is a lot. That's the good thing about Najee. Like, he does not miss games.
Nope.
He's played 17 games, 4 years in a row. He's ran for 1,000 every single year. It's just that he's never had double-digit touchdowns. And what you said is, they're not really moving the ball down the field with their passing game because of their quarterback play. Aging Big Ben, Kenny Pickett was a bust last year, even with Fields and Russ. Artie Smith didn't really work. So, yeah, now you got Herbert. We saw Herbert, kind of look much better last year, even though he had the plantar fasciitis, even though he had the high ankle sprain. That passing game was really working. Ladd McConkey looks good. Quentin Johnson, he took some steps up as well. We'll see if they, add another piece. They lost Josh Palmer to the Bills. But, yeah, I feel like Najee, like you said, he could possibly return, back to that RB1 range. And that could come through because he's going to catch possibly 50 balls this year and really help him in PPR leagues and possibly get double-digit touchdowns now playing with Herbert, who's going to move the ball down the field much more often.
And I fully expect Pittsburgh to bring in I don't think it's going to be Warren's backfield. It would not shock me to see Dobbins or Nick Chubb in Pittsburgh.
I could see Dobbins in there. Yeah, or Chubb. Yeah, you're right.
To fill in that in between a tackle banger role. That's my prediction. One of those two guys. I think one ends up in Pittsburgh, the other ends up in Chicago.
Yeah, and Zach says he loves that Najee spot.
Now, Najee, by the way, an underdog, 9th pick in the 9th round. Like, his ADP is going to go up, but still.
Yeah, no, good value. Yeah.
I would take him. I would take him over Tyrone Tracy in the 7th round. I would probably, that's probably where the starting point is of where I'm reaching for Najee.
I think 6th round is good for him too. And a lot of times you see those undervalued running backs kind of fall like in that 5th, 6th, more like 6th round, and then you could hit them there. And I'm in on Najee because of the system, because of the quarterback, because of the coach, because of the opportunity. We'll see who else they add, but it's all looking up for Najee Harris. Joe Carlton, our boy, says, "What's up?" All right, next on the list, who do you want to roll with?
Let's go. Let's scale back. Obviously, we don't have a lot of skill players to talk about that with dominoes falling, but let's go back to your guy. Maybe my guy now, Justin Fields.
Yeah. This was great because obviously I'm a big Fields guy, mostly because of fantasy football, but I do enjoy watching him play. The guy ran for 1,000 yards a few years ago with the Bears. I think he's tough as shit. I think he's been through hell with the Bears. A lot of people don't really understand what he was dealing with there. Multiple different coaches, multiple different offensive coordinators. He probably had the worst offensive line 2 years in a row at least. And maybe, one of the worst defenses for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. It was finally starting to get better that last year. The defense was getting better. Eberflus had the defense. And I pretty much watched almost every Fields game. So I think I have a pretty good handle on this. And it was getting better. I mean, DJ Moore had a career season with Fields, and Fields missed a month. So I think this is he goes to Pittsburgh. He works with Russell Wilson. He works with Tomlin. He looked good. 10 touchdowns, 2 turnovers or 3 turnovers or whatever it was in those 6 or 7 games he started, or 10 games he started. But, he got benched for Russ. Not a huge deal. They kind of wanted to do that the whole year. Russ started with the calf injury. So now he goes to the Jets. I think it's a great deal for the Jets. It's a low risk, high reward, 2 years, $40 million.
Yeah.
For Fields. So, you give him a year, you see how he looks. And then, if he's not that great, maybe you could keep him as a backup the next year, or maybe, and if not, maybe he's your starter for the next 2 years. And then maybe he earns a bigger contract. But I do like what the Jets are doing here. Aaron Glenn comes in, who I'm a huge fan of. Obviously he's a former Jet. He was on the Jets when the Jets were good, working with Parcells, working with Dan Campbell. So I feel like the Jets are on a good trajectory right now. And they bring in Fields. Garrett Wilson, I have high hopes for it, similar to DJ Moore when he came over from Carolina to the Bears. So I'm going to be in again on Garrett Wilson. And the good thing about Garrett Wilson now is you're not going to have to pay end of the first round. You could probably pay, he might fall into like the 3rd round now, because people are going to be like, oh, Fields is throwing the ball. He's going to be terrible. So Fields is going to go late in drafts as well. So that's a nice little stack you could do in best ball. You can do in redraft. Now, if you take Fields as your quarterback, maybe you want to, take somebody else as well, just to be a little bit safe. But I think Garrett Wilson could be in for a career year. Davante Adams is out of the way now. And they have the connection already. They're familiar with each other. I'm sure they're friends, which is a great starting point. And we already saw it with DJ Moore in his first year. So I think we're going to see similar here again. I'm really excited. I'm excited to be a Jets fan again. Like, I'm freaking amped up right now.
So I want to start here because, again, I'm not a big Justin Fields guy, but I think I'm turning the corner a little bit. But I want to preface, before getting to fantasy, I want to talk about Justin Fields from an NFL standpoint and why this is a pretty good win for the Jets. And we have to look at it this way. 2-year, $40 million, $30 million guaranteed. That's not a lot of money to pay your starting quarterback. It's a show-me deal for Justin Fields.
Yeah.
The Jets are in a position where if Justin Fields works and all of a sudden he turns the corner and they win a bunch of games, great. You have your starting quarterback another year on a cheap contract before you have to renegotiate. If he does not work, the Jets are going to be in a position to go, and next year's quarterback class is, already reportedly light years ahead of this one. The Jets are in a position to go take another quarterback in the top of the first round. So this is a really good situation for the Jets. You try out with Fields. At worst, even if they don't win a lot of games, he's going to put asses in seats. He's an exciting player to watch. And again, if it works, great. You have your starting quarterback on a deal for 2 years. If it doesn't work, they're picking high in the draft next year anyway. From a fantasy football standpoint, you said he's going to go late in drafts. I don't know about that, because Justin Fields, in 2 years as a starter where he played at least 13 games, so that's 2023, 2022, QB 9 in points per game, QB 5 in points per game. And I got this stat from Establish the Run. They call it a position-separating rushing ceiling of 8.9 rushing yards per game over his last 34 starts. That's insane. As good as some of these rushing quarterbacks are, like Justin Fields is almost like a game changer. You get a backfield. It's not like he's going to be in a piss-poor offense in terms of personnel like in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting Brees. You're getting Garrett Wilson. They have some studs on the offense. They worked on the offensive line last year. I think this is a really good position for Justin Fields, and I will be drafting a lot of Justin Fields this year. And it would not, I'll give a bold take already. I think he's a lock to finish as a top 12 quarterback. If he plays, he can't play 3 games, but if he plays like 14, 15 games, he's a lock to finish as a top 12 fantasy quarterback. I want to be all over I can't believe I'm saying this. It's going to be all over Justin Fields this year.
Yeah. I mean, I am too. Again, it's the Jets. So when it comes to the Jets, you always have to be
old Jets.
So fucking, I mean, I see. This is the problem. Every time I get my hopes up, I get crushed. So I'm trying not to get so excited here, but I might just have to let my emotions just take over this year and say, fuck it. I'm going to get excited because I love the Aaron Glenn hiring, and now they bring in Fields. So everything is aligning right here. We'll see what else they do here. But yeah, I think even if Fields is not great for the Jets in fantasy, he should definitely give you a nice return. He's only done that when he's been the starting quarterback for the Bears or even the Steelers. He was solid as a starter as well. So yeah, I don't know how late he's going to go, but I still think he'll be a pretty good value at the position. He's going to go after all those big dogs. And, I think a lot of people are going to be down on him. I think a lot of people don't really believe in him. They'll probably think maybe he'll lose his job, maybe to Tyrod Taylor or something. I'm just saying, I think, I don't think he's going to go ultra high. Now, if we see a lot of signs in the preseason, he's looking unbelievable with Garrett Wilson, he could definitely bump up a little bit. But either way, I feel like the Wilson Fields stack will be pretty easy to navigate in drafts and definitely can produce nice returns for you.
Now, let's stick to Garrett Wilson here. They obviously have a rapport in college. I get it was a long time ago, but I think with the full offseason together, they can reestablish that rapport by week 1, maybe by week 4 at the latest. So I think that's a plus. We've seen Garrett Wilson flash last year with Aaron Rodgers. Remember, they his targets were tapered way back once they brought Davante Adams in. But what I think people need to remember here, that there was a guy named DJ Moore who was in wide receiver fantasy football purgatory. And then he went to Chicago with Justin Fields, and Justin Fields managed to get DJ Moore into a top 9 fantasy point per game season in year 1 together.
Yeah.
So Justin Fields has it in him to unlock these receivers. We already saw it. I think he can do it with Garrett Wilson. Now, I'm not going to be as bullish as I was on Garrett Wilson last year with Aaron Rodgers. But will I still take the stabs on Garrett Wilson 3rd round?
Yeah, you don't got to pay the first. You don't got to pay the first anymore. End of the first.
Yeah. So I'm going to be in on Garrett Wilson. I'm also going to be in on Breece Hall because all of a sudden, it's not statuesque Aaron Rodgers, who I love, and it's not Zach Wilson. There's now a threat of an RPO, and now you're sharing Breece is going to be sharing a backfield, look what Lamar and Derrick Henry, look at Saquon and Jalen Hurts. That's the type of upside I think we can expect out of Breece Hall, because he's always been with the quarterback that couldn't really run a lot. And now you have that RPO threat. Look at Connor and Kyler.
Yep.
Breece is an elite running back, and Justin Fields is an elite running quarterback.
Yeah, totally agree. And Breece is going to be a better value than he was last year as well. He's not going to go top 5 anymore. He'd probably fall, 2nd, 3rd round as well.
Yeah. And your OC, Tanner, Engstrand, he was with Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
He's creative. We know there's creativity in this tree.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I think I think they're making all the right moves. I just want to see who else they add. I think they need, maybe in the draft, maybe a nice tight end finally for the Jets. Again, they could have had Bowers last year. I'm kind of pissed about that still, but we'll see what they add. But Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Fields, all for fantasy. And I think they're on the up and up. We'll see what happens with the Jets as a team. That's a different story altogether, but I am excited. I'm not going to try to get too giddy, but we'll see what happens. All right. What else? What else you want to touch on here?
Okay. Not a big one, but this is one we didn't talk about last night. Sanaje Perine.
Oof. Come on.
And it's significant. Well, no, it's a oof, but where did he land? He goes back to Cincinnati.
Yeah, but they're paying him like what? Right. Freaking Starbursts over there. They ain't paying him shit, right?
Right, but does this impact at all?
No, I don't.
Chase Brown.
No, I don't think so. And I wouldn't let that defer you from taking Chase Brown, because Chase Brown was so solid
No, I
last
love
year.
Chase Brown.
Yeah,
But I just think it's worth a conversation, at least a minute or two of conversation, because
yeah.
they did use for a little bit. What's his name?
Zach Moss.
And I think Perine is his skill set. He's a capable pass catching running back, and obviously so is Chase Brown. That's the part that scares me a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, Chase Brown's going to be a lot more expensive this year. Obviously, he was more of a value last year. But in that offense, the way he looked last year, they already franchise tagged T. Higgins. So it's going to be full system go for that Bengals offense. We'll see what happens with the defense if it's trash again. But obviously, that's great for the freaking offense. But I'm not going to be too worried about Sanaje Perine now. Maybe a little bit. He takes a little bit here or there, but I'm not going to let that deter me. I feel like, we kind of, and I was doing those lessons learned from last year on the show, and I kind of feel like sometimes we think about these older veteran quarterbacks, or even on the flip side, like a rookie running back comes in to, take over for a veteran. Or a guy that's been there for a few years, and we kind of give a little too much credit to the newcomer sometimes, and we end up passing on the more talented running back. So I think you just bet on talent, and you stick with Chase Brown.
What about Josh Palmer to your Buffalo Bills?
My Buffalo Bills. Not anymore, man. No. I can't, obviously I love Allen, and I do root for the Bills, but I'm souped up about the Jets this year more than ever. But yeah, Josh Palmer to the freaking Bills. I think it's, we just saw Mac Hollins lead the team in touchdowns. Then the Patriots sign him, right? But 6 touchdowns for Hollins. I'd have to think Palmer is better than Mac Hollins. He might be their new touchdown leader. He's a deep threat. He's a big guy, 6'3". He's got pretty good speed. I think he's solid. Now, he was kind of an afterthought after Quentin Johnston and Ladd McConkey on the Chargers last year. And I'd like to see the Bills go out and add maybe another pretty significant signing at the receiver position. But I feel like with the Bills, it's just going to be spread around so much, just like last year right now. Like looking at the wide receiver room, we got Shakir, Curtis Samuel, if he's coming back, Kincaid, Dawson Knox. So it's just going to be spread. And then obviously Keon Coleman taking a bigger step. I think it's just going to be just a total spread around. So I think he's going to be kind of hard to stack again, Josh Allen, because you're never really going to know who the hell is going to produce any given week. But I could see Josh Palmer, maybe 700, 800 yards against 6, 7, 8 touchdowns, something like that.
I want to start with Josh Palmer here. His touchdown regression from 2021, his rookie year, has gone from 4, 3, 2, 1. And he only, he played at least 15 games in 3 out of 4 seasons. He had the one game in 1 year in 2023 where he played in 10. He had opportunities, whether it was when Keenan Allen or Mike Williams were hurt, or even last year to emerge, ahead of Ladd McConkey, or at least ahead of Quentin Johnston. He just couldn't do it. Yeah. I just don't know what he is at this point. And for Buffalo, and I'll keep it. I know I've gotten interactions on Twitter. Because I say I think Buffalo needs to add a big time receiver. It's like, they just have a top 3 offense every year with that one. Okay, but in the playoffs, I think they need a playmaker to go advance to a Super Bowl. And I know I'm a Josh Allen hater. This is no slight on Josh Allen. But I brought this up, I forgot on what show. Look at Philly and how many dudes they have on offense. Never mind how many dudes they have on offense. All-pro receiver, Heisman Trophy receiver, Pro Bowl tight end, elite running back, Jalen Hurts, and then you have Josh Allen. I just think, I get they had Diggs and they couldn't get over the hump. They need to bring, and they tried with Amari Cooper, but I think, it would be in their best interest to, and there's not much out there. They need to find a receiver. And I don't know if Keon Coleman is it either. I just think they need something to where when you're facing Kansas City and you have that dagger shot, who is the dagger going to? oh, wait,
Yeah.
it's going to be a run by Josh Allen.
Yeah.
You don't have that dagger receiver.
Or a couple bombs to Matt Collins, like in the playoff game.
Right. Like,
But
I just think.
yeah, no, I agree. Like Josh Palmer, like he should stretch the defense a little bit, and make some big plays here or there. But yeah, he's not a game changer. Kincaid, he took a step back. Now he had the MCL injury, but we were all, a lot of people were kind of like looking at him as like he could be the Travis Kelce of the Bills, but that doesn't seem like the case either. James Cook looks great, and Shakir's solid. They just paid him, but yeah, I agree. Like. And there's not many options now. Like there's the receivers out in the free agency pool now are not going to make a difference. So unless they find somebody in the draft, which I think they should try to add somebody, maybe trade up or maybe first or second round, get a burner, get a guy that can really stretch the defense and match Allen's arm. I agree. I mean, but we'll see. They might just kind of run it back similar to last year while trying to improve the defense. Maybe, a couple pieces here on the offensive line or defense, receiver position, but they may have to wait to next year because they may not have the opportunity presented to them to add the other piece. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm in full agreement. It's like you have Josh Allen. The window is not going to last forever. So you got to have some urgency and start, stacking some legit people on his team. But we'll see how it all plays out.
If they had a chance, and this is the one that jumps off on me, Keenan Allen, and you're Buffalo, do you pull the trigger? I get he's aging. He didn't play bad in Chicago last year towards the end. Like he's going to be entering his age 33 season. I just feel like there is that reliable veteran, and he's not going to be a pain in the ass like Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, no, that's true. I don't think that's a bad one. I mean, Keenan Allen could definitely still get open. He's still got good hands. He could help the younger receivers in that room, like Keon Coleman, who's not the best separator, work with him in his route running. So, yeah, I actually don't mind that. I think that could probably help the Bills. And Keenan Allen would probably be interested in going there, to try to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Obviously, play with Josh Allen. So, but, it's not a bad one.
Yeah, otherwise, there's not a ton.
No.
You got Diggs, Allen, Cooper, Cooks, Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett, Hopkins just signed, Mike Williams, Robert Woods, Josh Reynolds, like that, DeMarcus Robinson.
Yeah. DeMarcus Robinson's not a bad one.
Or Cooper Kupp. He's going to be released at the start of the new league year tomorrow.
Yeah, Kupp and Allen are kind of similar.
I see Kupp in Jacksonville. That's what I think's happening, but we'll see. With Liam Cohen.
Yeah, or maybe the Chargers. What do you think?
Don't they have that already in McConkey? Don't they do a lot of the same things?
But I mean, they just lost Palmer. Quentin Johnson is, he still struggles with drops. He's raw. It kind of gives you a third guy to utilize. I could see it, him just pairing up with Herbert and giving Herbert a legitimate weapon. So
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I just don't know how much Cooper Kupp has left either.
Yeah. The writing has kind of been on the wall for the past couple seasons. And obviously leaving Sean McVay in that system is not going to help either.
I can also see a realistic chance that maybe Keenan Allen goes back to the Chargers.
Yeah, that's certainly possible as well. I mean, that definitely could happen.
What do you, I mean, what do we have? Let's start, I guess, closing out here as we covered all the relevant topics. What do you think of the 49ers? They are they rebuilding? They're not freeing up all this money just for Purdy, right? Like, is this a short-term rebuild?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it is. They're losing a lot of guys on the defense, the offensive line. Obviously, they paid Ayuk a lot of money last year, and they got to pay Purdy as well. But I mean, they still have a lot of the core pieces. Fred Warner's still there, obviously. Trent Williams, Ayuk, McCaffrey, and then Shanahan, obviously, still the coach. But yeah, I mean, it is a little concerning. Like, this could be a little bit of a shift for the Niners, where instead of that dominant team that we're used to, making those deep runs in the playoffs every year, maybe it becomes more a team like they start getting knocked out in the wild card round every year. That certainly could be the case. I mean, it's going to be on them to, now with losing all these guys, to make the right replacements and make a lot of good moves to kind of get back to where they were before, but it's going to take a lot because it's a competitive freaking business, and the other teams seem like they've surpassed them at this moment.
Yeah. And, looking at what this roster looks like, a lot of people, including Hoff, and he should have been excited to get Robert Saleh back on that sideline. And all of a sudden they lose 3 or 4 defensive starters and some depth.
Yeah.
Dre Greenlaw, Huafunga, Ward, Kinlaw. Yeah. And then on offense, like one of the, the leaders in that locker room, we saw Kittle react to it and CMC react to it, Juszczyk. So these are some core pieces they're moving off of. Trent Williams, they're keeping him, but how long does CMC have left? Kittle's in his 30s. So I think this is a short term, and I think this is the right time if I'm the 49ers, because you got Darnold in Seattle, the Cardinals are the Cardinals with Kyler, and the Rams are making moves to hey, we're going to go chase a Super Bowl this year. And if I'm the 49ers, you know what? If we're going to do a short-term rebuild, Stafford maybe has a year left. Let's do it now. Let the Rams have their day. And then 2026, we'll come back out firing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the 49ers are not going to do anything.
No.
But if I'm looking at the state of the NFC West, now's the time.
Yeah, no, I agree. They probably are just looking to the future a little bit, looking at contracts, figuring, it's time to move off these guys, make some moves, and they feel confident they can replace them and still stay competitive.
Yeah.
On the other end, I mean, what about the Texans, letting up these offensive linemen? And that was kind of the case with the Texans last year. So that was the big issue with Stroud. He wasn't getting the protection, and their offense fell off a cliff. So they're going to have to get some key pieces back on that offensive line as well.
The Texans are just a weird team anyway, because who's the wide receiver they brought in? Kirk. This was one of the most injured wide receiver rooms, right? Because as much as I love Nico, he gets hurt every year. What's his name? Tank Dell is not playing this year, and he gets hurt every year. And so, and then you have Diggs who got hurt. He's not coming back. So you replace, and then you have, even the depth guys get banged up. So you replace an injured wide receiver room with an injured wide receiver, Christian Kirk. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get trading away Laramie Tunsil.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the hell is going on.
And this is a playoff team every year.
Yeah. I guess, they must have seen something, like they feel like these guys are not as good as they used to be, and they're moving out a little bit early on them, and just kind of rebuilding, I guess, in their own way, because DeMeco Ryans is young, Stroud is young, and they feel like they could kind of rebuild that offensive line and remake that offensive line and still stay competitive and expect Stroud to have a bounce back season. How about you guys probably talked about this the other day, but what do you think about Darnold to Seattle?
I mean, he was a quarterback 8 or 9 in fantasy points per game. I'm not expecting that whatsoever. I think, he's not going to be ranked in my top 20 quarterbacks. And I think they're going to use him as a game manager. They're going to run the football with their very talented running backs. They have a decent line, and they have JSN. I think this is going to be a team under McDonald that's going to want to run the football, play defense, and win ugly.
Yeah. Yeah. Clint Kubiak comes into town. He said he really wants to utilize Kenneth Walker already, but the problem with Kenneth Walker, he can't stay freaking healthy. But yeah, I think Darnold, he obviously moves into a much inferior position than from the Vikings with O'Connell, coach of the year, offensive quarterback whisperer over there. Losing Justin Jefferson, losing Addison, Hawkinson. Now he's got JSN, that's good, but they got to add somebody. I mean, their second receiver right now is Jake Bobo. So, we'll see what the Seattle does. But yeah, I feel like it's not, I'm not really thinking about Darnold.
Yeah.
And I feel like Seattle's going to kind of take a little bit of a step back, but we'll see. Maybe they add another big piece at the receiver in the position in the draft, or a tight end or something. Maybe Kenneth Walker finally stays healthy and goes off. And then what do you think the Vikings are going to do? You think they're going to bring one of these veteran quarterbacks?
Yeah, I don't think it's JJ this year unless it has to be JJ McCarthy, because we don't know how he's coming off the injury. Again, another guy in a rookie deal, and this team is ready to win now. If I had to make my predictions, I think Cousins to Minnesota, Rodgers to Pittsburgh. That's my call. Because if you're Minnesota and you're going to go Rodgers, just go acquire Cousins back because he knows the system. They didn't really want him to leave anyway last year. They just didn't want to pay him that deal.
Yeah. You don't think they're just going to roll with McCarthy?
With that, no.
So
this team is, unless they're really confident, he can go out and take this team to the playoffs.
Well, O'Connell's got to be confident. I mean, look what he did with Cousins' success. And then even Nick Mullins was throwing for like 4 or 5 touchdowns and 400 yards in that offense. So
my biggest worry with McCarthy is that he wasn't asked to do a lot in college. Neither was Anthony Richardson. Neither was Trey Lance. I'm not saying he's going to be as bad as them.
Yeah.
But it's like, like we say it all the time about lack of experience. And is it going to turn over?
Yeah.
Like, yes, he won championships, but that running game and defense won championships.
Yeah. And we only really saw him in the preseason. I'm kind of intrigued about McCarthy, but I don't think I have an accurate assessment of him. So I'll definitely be looking at him much closer as we get closer to the season. Couple comments in the chat. Index of Suspicion says the Jets took Kyle Brady, tight end, over Tom Brady. I mean, the history of the Jets in the draft. They passed on Ed Reed. They passed on freaking Brock Bowers last year. And then also one of the worst draft, off-season moves. They traded that first round for Doug Jolly. And then the second round, they took Mike Nugent, the kicker. So the Jets have a history of just horrific picks. He also says, crazy to think DGM never walked off the field early with Fields as his quarterback. I mean, yeah, you could tell Moore was kind of pissed early on with Caleb there. There was something going on there. That was crazy. He was definitely had some resentment because I thought he wanted them to bring Fields back. But, it seemed like it got a little bit better as the season went on. Joe Carlton says fading. All right. I don't know what that means, but all right. Anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here? Almost an hour.
Wrap it up.
All right. Well, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching today. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, share to the show. We'll be back soon. Again, tons of dynasty stuff, tons of free agency stuff. March Madness as well. The NCAA tournament is almost upon us. Selection Sunday is this Sunday. So check that all on the channel. You got to like, you got to subscribe, you got to hit the notification button and share the show. So for Anthony and myself, we will see you guys soon. Take care.